is one product that was doing exceptionally well, and that's stuck on a ship somewhere at the moment.
How much do you owe the revenue on the VAT? January, bang, fell off a cliff. You know, I know I'm driving myself insane. Okay, Chris Worden, welcome back to another edition of the Director First podcast. And this is one of those shows where we're going to bring on a director of a limited company who we are trying to support right now, giving them some advice on what their options that may be. So I'd like to welcome Tracy to the podcast. Thank you for joining us, Tracy.
Thank you for having me, Chris.
Brilliant. I mean, obviously, Tracy, anything that we discuss with directors, you know, we're not here to judge. We're here to find out, listen, what's going on, not worse than it is, not better than it is, you know, what's the facts for your business right now? We'll go through exactly, you know, how you're finding stuff right now, what your worries are, what your fears are, and hopefully we can sort of work through what a few options may be for you. So would it be okay, Tracy? I mean, listen, tell us what's going on for you now. What sort of caused you to reach out?
Right. Well, actually, Chris, this isn't the first time I've reached out to you. I've got in contact with you prior to Christmas, just before Christmas, I think it was. The challenges I've had is a lot of it's due to I put all the accounts of the business in the hands of an accountant, and I wasn't paying as much attention as I should have. I assumed they were doing everything that they should be doing. And what happened was a lot of my VAT returns were submitted late, and I accumulated a lot of fees and a lot of backdated VAT to be paid. And I contacted you prior to Christmas when I heard about the amount that I have to pay. And I thought, okay, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to handle this. But I have a seasonal business. And one of the things you suggested, which worked out to be okay, is let's get through the Q4, which is the most, that's my highest earning months, and see how it goes there. And fortunately, I did really well during Q4, and I thought this will be great. And I contacted HMRC to set up a payment plan to deal with some of the backdated payments, which was agreed as well. And initially, it all seemed fine. And I'm finding myself stuck because I'm not only paying HMRC arrears, I've got current HMRC fees to pay. And sales are slower than they usually are. And I'm finding myself in a sticky position where I'm seeing mounting bills and not enough cash flow to pay them, basically.
Okay. So let's just dig in a little bit. Just rough approximate figures. How much do you owe the revenue on the VAT?
Well, the backdated revenue, it was about 70 grand, and they agreed a £2,000 per month repayment over the course of 3 years.
Right. Okay. Cool.
But
now,
that's
just for that.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
So, just for people that don't understand, this is a perfect example. So when you get behind with things like your VAT, you do have an option called a time to pay arrangement. But so many directors don't even know this is available, and they don't even ask for time to pay, or they agree to a time to pay that's too short. Now, based on our information, our conversation before Christmas, you was able to go to the revenue and restructure that £70,000 over a 3-year period. Yeah, that was fairly easy to do.
That was your suggestion, actually. I think initially I thought it was going to be a year, and you said, just tell them, make it as long as possible. And so I went ahead and I thought, well, I could manage 3 years, and I put it to them that it's 3 years. And I think the lady I spoke, I think I was just fortunate to speak to somebody who was quite understanding. And I spoke to her about what was going on, and she asked me questions such as, how are you gonna be able to pay the monthly amount? And I was already making adjustments to my business. I moved out of a warehouse premises. So I was finding ways to run the business on less anyway. So that's what I was putting. I think she asked me a series of questions that made her feel confident that I would be able to meet those payments, and she seemed quite fine and okay to do it. Yeah.
Okay, so you got your time to pay arrangement. Was it just VAT you had in that, or did you also have some corporation tax and PAYE as well?
No, I think it was just the VAT. You know, yeah. I think it was just the backdated VAT payments.
Okay, so as part of the terms of a time to pay arrangement, they'll mention to you that if we give you this time to pay, you've got to keep up with your current liabilities, and that sounds like where the problem's coming at the moment. There is what's the next VAT payment that's coming up that you're not going to be able to pay, Tracy?
Yeah, well, Q4 is always our big sales, and we had a great big VAT bill in January, and I was able to pay that, but then that's wiped out my cash flow. So I've got one coming up anytime soon. I have nothing to pay that. I've got suppliers that I need to pay, and I'm struggling to pay them. I forgot to mention that my best business is an Amazon, predominantly, it's an e-commerce business where I've got a couple of brands that predominantly sell on Amazon FBA. And I've also got an Amazon FBA loan with an outstanding amount. I think my last payment is next month. So it's just a lot that's come at the same time. My last payment is next month. I owe them about 5,900 in total.
Okay, so how much do you expect your next VAT bill to be, this VAT bill that you're going to struggle to pay?
It will be a lot less than January. I'm estimating it will be 7,000 to 8,000.
Okay, cool. And how much do you owe the suppliers at the moment?
Oh, so I've got one that's waiting to go. So I've got the shipping companies, 2, 4, approximately 6,000 to 7,000, because I've got a shipping company and a supplier that I've got to pay the remainder of one of the orders for.
Okay, cool. Does the business have any other debts aside from these?
No.
Okay, cool. Right, and what's fairly common, and I've seen this a lot in your industry as well, is sales are slowing down, and I think the reason things are slowing down is we're all feeling the pinch a little bit, aren't we?
Yeah.
People are just a little bit hesitant in spending, and obviously would it be fair to say these are your quieter months now?
They are. And in addition to Amazon's increasing their fees, so our margins have been squeezed tighter as well. These are my quieter months, yes. Yeah, so there's a combination of issues, yeah.
How much stock have you got available at the moment? Just roughly.
Oh, you mean in value, or because I've got stock in cost. Oh gosh. Oh, I'd have to sit down and really think about that. I'm not sure.
What if we was to say big handfuls? Big handfuls. What would be the cost of the stock in your various storage areas now?
I'd say, including the stock that I've got in transit, I'd say to the value of about £30,000 to £40,000.
Okay, so it's 30 to 40k. Now, cash at the bank at the moment, I don't need to know to the penny, but where are we at in big handfuls?
We're just not. We're just scraping by. I didn't take a salary last month. Not likely to take one this month. I'm really stuck.
Okay.
No cash.
Cool. So let's have a look at what the options are here. Oh, is there any type of C-bills loan?
No
outstanding.
Loan.
So no bounce back loan, no C-bills loan. Okay.
No.
So when we look at this, we've got HMRC owed another 8,000. There was a £70,000 time to pay. You've been paying it at £2,000 a month. In addition, you're getting pressure from suppliers and this Amazon FBA loan. Can I ask, is the FBA loan, is it personally guaranteed, Tracy?
I'd have to look into that. I'm not sure. There is only one payment left on that, and I did contact them today, and it's 5,800 in total. and that's
Okay.
finished. I haven't. I'd have to have a look to see if it's personally guaranteed. I'm not sure.
Okay, cool. Have you done any sort of cash flow projections over the next few months throughout, to the end of the year to see where, what the likely income's going to be?
As I said to you at the beginning of before quarter 4 last year, during Q4 is always a good time for us. And there is one product that was doing exceptionally well, and that's stuck on a ship somewhere at the moment. So that's my only hope, in terms, and that's in terms of sort of recovering some revenue. But besides that, slow down really. It's a very different marketplace to what it was last year.
I mean, the business it is insolvent right now, and there's a thing called corporate insolvency tests, and it's 3 questions. The first question is three tests. The first test is the cash flow test. Can you pay your debts as and when they fall due? And the fact that you're in a time to pay arrangement, you've got another bill that's going to breach that time to pay arrangement. Obviously, you're insolvent on a cash flow basis. And when we have a look at the balance sheet basis, all that means is liabilities are more than the assets. So it certainly fails 2 of the insolvency tests. Now, I'm not saying though that insolvency is the right option for you right now, because I think if you the downside, let's have a look at the downside to liquidation. If you liquidated this business, you would lose your Amazon account. And it's whether or not you would be able to recover to a revenue that's suitable in a new Amazon account. I think that's something you need to go away and consider perhaps here, Tracy, because the other option will be, right, well, how can we get through to quarter 4? And the way that you do that is, I know this is going to be a super uncomfortable conversation, but if you cannot make that next VAT payment, you need to ring them quickly. And you need to explain what's gone on. And now just like to say, listen, I've taken insolvency advice. I really, really do not want to go down the liquidation route. But if you won't include this next VAT payment into my time to pay, sadly, I'm going to have to appoint a liquidator, because let me just explain what happens in liquidation. If this went into liquidation, well, you as a director, you could purchase the stock of the business, and you could set up a new company with a different name. You could be selling the exact same stock on Amazon.
Right.
Now it's called the pre-pack. Now the price for your stock, the cost may be £30,000 to £40,000. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But if you was to have that valued independently by an agent in an insolvency scenario, I don't believe, and I'm not an agent, but I've done a lot of these jobs over the years, I don't believe that agent would value this at £30,000 or £40,000. Right. And I'll tell you for why. There's 2 options when you get big job lots from Amazon sellers, particularly, or any retail. Either you sell them piecemeal, and that takes too long, so no one's gonna offer you that amount of money for the stock. It might be worth 30 or 40 grand to you, but to a insolvency buyer or someone at auction, they're going to want a discount on that. And I think you get a sizable discount on that stock that you've got in. So I know we assisted with a furniture company, and he believed that his stock were worth £120,000. So we had it valued off actually 2 agents, and one valued it at £20,000 and one valued it at £23,000. Right. So what this guy did is he liquidated. He bought. I think he had actually offered £25,000 for his stock. And he set up a new company and to continue to trade, and he paid for that stock over, I think, a 4-month period. And he shed, I mean, it were multiple hundreds of thousands of pounds that this company owed. But what he was able to do was to pre-pack the business, start again. He transferred all his staff over to the new company, saving their jobs. And he was able to write off quite a lot of debt and sort of start again debt-free. So that's an option.
No.
But I think we've got to put our finger on is, what do you think the problem is here? You know, because you don't want to pre-pack a business, start again, and be in the same position, you know, 18 months down the line. Is there, when you look at this with a real critical eye, what's gone wrong and how do you think you could solve this in a new company?
The problem I'm foreseeing is the continuous VAT payments. It's just gonna, I feel as though it's going to be a constant chase to sell products in order to pay HMRC, and it's just not a business. So I'm basically working to pay back HMRC. I don't see much option for me getting anything out of the business at all. I might just about stay afloat, but everything I earn is going to HMRC and Amazon fees.
And the motivation to be an entrepreneur is to earn money, isn't it?
Yeah,
going to work to bloody pay the bills and yeah. So can I ask though, just to push a bit further, obviously the £70,000 that was incurred originally to the revenue, how did that happen?
That really was not my fault. Well, I suppose it's my fault because I was ignorant to what the work of the accountant should be. This is the first business I've had, and I was just focusing on running the business. I hired accountants who just let things slip. So they weren't submitting VAT returns on time. I was incurring fee upon fee upon fee. This is completely new ball game to me all together. And so I said, look, I want this all done. I want it up to date. I can't keep paying all these fees. So when my accountant brought everything up to date, it turned out that I owed, because I was paying estimates. So what happened was HMRC said, look, you've just got to give us this money because it's late. And I pay whatever HMRC said was the estimated VAT bill. So it really was more to do with my accountants not keeping up to speed and not doing what they should be doing. It really was negligence on their part. I'm quite responsible. Anything that comes up, I do my best to do it. I've not got any major debts anywhere else. This is what it was down to.
A big tip I could give to directors, especially with the VAT, because it'll come in. The problem with HMRC is, unlike other creditors that are banging down the door to be paid, like suppliers and staff and subcontractors, the HMRC won't. They'll send you a letter going, Chris, you've missed your last VAT payment. Okay, right, I'll deal with it next quarter. And then the next quarter comes along and you're like, shit, things haven't picked up. And you're 2 quarters behind. And before HMRC start to turn the screw, you might be 3 quarters behind. If your VAT is 25 grand a quarter, you're 75 grand behind the 8 ball then. And that's where the problem is. So what I do personally is I have a separate account, and whatever comes into the business, I put 20% away. Yeah. And what means is when my VAT bill is ready, and the accountant sends it me, I have that money to pay the VAT. And I've done time to pay arrangements with the revenue in the past in other businesses that we've been involved with. And we actually did one for this business at the at the start of during the COVID pandemic as well. So it's a handy thing to do. Set up a separate account. Whatever comes in, you can put the VAT away. And that way you're never behind. And I think another thing that comes out of this is, like, in accountants, there's good and bad in every industry. There is in mine, but I think it's a two-way street with the accountant. You've got to find an accountant you can talk to and sort of carve that time out with them to spend with them at least once a quarter. Do you use any type of accounting software such as Xero or QuickBooks or Sage?
No, that's all done via my accountant. Yeah, there's a system that they use to go into Amazon's FBA central back end and get all the data from there. Yeah, I think we're both aware, my accountants and myself, that it's all. I've learned the hard way that I've got to stay as close as possible to my accountants and keep an eye on the numbers as much as they do, really. But I've learned that the hard way, I suppose.
Well, listen, Tracy, I don't learn things generally because people tell me. I learn the hard way. I learn
Yeah,
through pain, and
yeah,
like I say, I'm not here after a university degree in insolvency. I
yeah,
don't know if I've ever shared this with you, but I ended here because I had a business a good number of years ago that ended up in liquidation.
yeah,
And I owed the revenue over £100,000. That was like, I think it was 1 or 2 VAT quarters and some corporation tax. I owed a supplier about £90,000. The stuff they give me was defective. Anyway, the top and bottom of it is I've been where you're at. I've been there thinking, oh my God, I've been there where I don't want to answer the phone because it's suppliers. I remember, I mean, it's embarrassing to say this, but I put a lock. You could just walk into our office.
yeah,
And I remember a HMRC enforcement officer come in and I just shit myself. We had staff and I
yeah,
put a lock on the door so they couldn't come in again. I did that I weren't going to ring them. I'm thinking I'm not bloody ringing them. I'm just not going to let them in.
yeah,
And anyway, I learned the hard way,
yeah,
and there was some element. I mean, I'll give you some backstory. I was in an industry that dealt with renewable energy. There was a change in government legislation. The business model we had was over. Overnight, it was over. But me being the ever optimist, I've read hundreds of books on personal development and positivity, and I'm thinking, you know what, I'm going to get through this. I'm going to get through this. The reality is, the minute that tariff should have got to court, I should have got rid of every member of staff the day after, shut the doors,
yeah,
and I'd have ended up in a better position. But I didn't, because that's the thing. I think that's important as well in insolvency. You've got to see things in the cold light of day. Not positive. It's like, and I'm going to ask you that question. If you think that you're past the point of no return here, and based on what you've told me, I think that's where you're at. But you need to come through to this conclusion. I would be considering looking at some type of pre-pack option for this business. And what you would do is, like, as a director, you can sell the assets of your business to a new company that you head up. But you must get an agent to value your stock. And you'd get an agent and you'd go, right, I need a report for insolvency purposes. And they would give you a view on your stock, and they'll give you 2 values. They'll give you an in situ value, and that's what they believe the stock is worth to you if you carry on. And they'll give you something called an ex situ value. And an ex situ value takes into consideration moving stock, storing stock, auctioning stock, taking the auctioneer's fees off. And the ex situ value is always lower than the in situ value. Now, as long as you pay something close to that in situ value, and you don't have to pay it all at once. Let's say I've got one at the moment. He's purchasing stuff for £20,000. He hasn't got £20,000 to pay. But what he does is insolvent company raises an invoice to his connected company for £20,000. And the timescales he's going to give him is 6 months. He's spoken to us. We've spoken to the IP. The IP's happy to take it over 6 months. And once the insolvency practitioner gets appointed, they'll recover the £20,000 in from the new company. And he gets to start again debt-free. Now, the downside for somebody like you, though, is you would lose that Amazon listing, Tracy. And you'd have to start again from Amazon. Now, if you think, you know what, that is just... That's just the death knell for us. My thoughts with you would be, sadly, you're not going to be able to get rid of this HMRC debt. But I think if you sort of explain what's going on and you explain to them, listen, I've got no hope of paying this next one, I actually think they might consider lumping this payment into the current time to pay arrangement. But the problem is are you going to be here again in 3 months' time?
That's the issue. Yeah.
And
I mean, that's the discussion we had before Christmas. And we said, well, let's wait till Q4. And yes, I got the payment plan from HMRC and I managed to get through Q4. But all that revenue generated through Q4 went straight to HMRC in January. And I'm working with no cash flow now. So, and it's like, I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel in terms of.
Could I ask you a question? You know, are your margins high enough?
It varies. It depends on the product. On the best-selling product that's on the shipment at the moment, that's my saving. That one would be really good. That's a very high margin and a very fast-selling product. That alone would make a significant difference. But yeah.
Well, what about these other products?
The other products
are they worth having?
A lot of them are, like, as I say, the margins have been squeezed so badly from Amazon that, all right, we're talking about some at 15%, 20%, which is pretty still okay, ticking along, but not significant.
Are there other avenues? You know, are there other avenues that you can? I mean, I explained it. You know, years ago we used to just do Facebook. And
yes, I have been looking at other options. I've got a website. I mean, but Amazon's such a big marketplace. So I have been looking at other options. I have been selling on the website and I have been selling on an Etsy platform and I have been selling. So I'm looking at putting a lot more time and energy into those other platforms as well.
Because that's I think that's the thing that needs considering here, Tracy. Is are you there's always anyone who tells you liquidate and your problems go away, it's a red flag, right?
Yeah.
There are positives to liquidation. Positives are you can start again. The debt will get anything that's unsecured, VAT, PAYE, corporation tax, certain suppliers, sadly, you know, energy bills, business rates, they get wiped out. Bounce back loans, C bills under 250,000, they get wiped out. So you can start again debt free. But an insolvent business is a bucket with loads of holes in. You've got to look at fixing the holes first before you start again. So the downside is, you know, there could be some reputational damage. You know, if a supplier gets taken for money, you know, are they going to want to supply you again? With an Amazon seller, it's the loss of an Amazon account, or an eBay seller, it's the loss of an eBay account. So, and it's weighing up these things and going, you know what? I mean, there is another option that, you know what, the business model doesn't work anymore. You know, and that's what some people say, you know what? I'm flogging a dead horse here, and then they just liquidate the business and walk away because
it does feel like that. It does feel like that. I mean, I've been doing this since 2016, and it's very, very different now. It's a very different marketplace now to what it was back then. I'm generating far more revenue, but I'm seeing way less profit, which is crazy, you know, because when you look at the revenue numbers, they're great, but when I initially started the business, it felt like I was way more profitable. You know, I had way more wiggle room than I do now. And I do feel that it's mainly down to the HMRC. I mean, I think if I had a clean slate, I know what to do. I could easily rebuild, and I wouldn't even have to build as big as I do now. I'm feeling like I can go in with a much smaller business and still be more generate more of a profit. So even though I've got higher revenue numbers, my profit's just not workable. It doesn't feel like it's worth continuing, you know, the way I am.
You know the old saying, don't you? Turnover is vanity and profit sanity. And what we found is, you know, I see this a lot, is the last few years have been brutal for every industry. You know, it's just been tough out there. And a lot of people are scaling back right now. They're going through and they're going, you know what? While things are so bleak, I can scale back and I can earn. I've got a lifestyle business again. I can pay my bills. I can have a nice income, because this won't last forever. This will pass. Like when it's good, where everyone's having it bang off, that will pass. And the key learnings I've taken is when it's good, I've got to squirrel stuff away and not spend it all. So I've got a little bit of wool on my back. Bear with me. I've got a bloody sensor in this room that I need to stand up for the light to go on. But you know, when things improve or you're testing other markets at the moment, you may find a niche on Etsy, you may find a niche on eBay. Because when you're firefighting as well, it's always at the back of your mind, this, isn't it? It's like, oh God, I've got this the mental
That's what it
torture.
is.
And I couldn't, I remember this. When it was all going to hell in a handbasket, I would be just frantically in my office day in, day out. And I'd be walking around, or I'd be going to the shop, I'd be sat in my car, I'd do anything but spend some time with the staff. And I'd be like, things are going to change, things are going to change. And I'm refreshing my emails, I'm taking phone calls. And then I'd get home at 6 o'clock at night where I'm meant to be relaxing with my young family. And my head would be like, I remember trying to fall asleep, right? And have you ever played a pinball machine and you just pull the pin back and the pinball goes bang, 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 and all these lights go on? That was my head as I was hitting the pillar, and I would be up 1, 2, 3 in the morning. And the problem with all that stuff is, I mean, I've read hundreds of positive thinking books, but guess what? You know, when the shit's hitting the fan, I start to catastrophize. And I do not think about what could go right. I start to think what could go wrong. If I don't just think it's going to go wrong, I know it's going to go wrong. And I'm thinking, right, it's 6 months and I'm going to be living out of a skip with my kids. And that's why I think stuff like this is so important. It's I'm not just saying to get professional insolvency advice. Hopefully, a lot of people who watch us don't need this. They just want to know what goes on the call. But you know what? Speak to someone. Just talk to somebody about what's going on, because I'm talking for me here. A lot of the problems I have are from my thinking. You know, I'm not thinking right about something. So I've then got to go, well, what do you do? I have trusted people in my circle, business people, other entrepreneurs, my accountant who I've been with for years. And I will go, what do you think of that? I'm worried about this. You know, I had a time with Google Ads this year, and like we did really well on Google Ads. January, bang, fell off a cliff. Absolutely bombed. And I know we're driving myself insane, because that spend was producing no return. So I just had to keep talking to people about it until I figured out a solution. But I remember early doors, I was just too proud to tell anyone I had a problem.
Yeah, and I am a part of a community that I can reach out and speak to, people who are way ahead and way more knowledgeable than I am, who would be able to give a lot of input that might be helpful. So,
well, listen, do you have any other questions for me, Tracy, before I start to sum up and wrap this up?
No, that's been really helpful. I mean, assuming I do go through the insolvency route, I know you're talking about pre-packing. Would that be something where I would start the new business right away?
Yeah, so what you would do is you could start a new company now. I would advise that you use a different company name completely. You would have to set up a new bank account. Obviously, your accountant, if you're going to be VAT registered, is going to have to apply for the tax numbers. So then you're up and running, sort of thing. You need to get your new Amazon, eBay, Etsy account, get all that sorted. And then what you need to do at that stage is that you will have an amount of stock in this business. The stuff on the water may land. And if you're going to take that into a new company, it's very important that you have an agent value that stock. And when you're working with insolvency professionals, they'll all have a panel of agents. So obviously, if you decide to work with those guys, I'll make a few phone calls and I'll introduce you to somebody. They will do a agent's report and they will tell you what the value of this stuff is in an insolvency scenario. Now, you will make a call on whether that's viable, and we'll speak to one of the insolvency practitioners here and talk them through. It's important when you're doing these pre-packs, you keep the insolvency practitioner updated of what's going on. And then you would agree to sell your stock to your new company. It's a paperwork exercise. You'll get a valuation. You will raise an invoice. You'll send it to the new company. And then essentially you've taken the good out of this company, okay? And you're left with a shell company that has some debts. And what you would do is you would appoint an insolvency practitioner. Now, before we would take your job on, Tracy, we'd look at everything. We'd look at the balance sheet of the business. We'd make sure that there's no overdrawn director's loan accounts, or if there is an overdrawn director's loan account, we'd help you understand what they are and what you're going to do about it. But assuming that there's no issues, we'd send you liquidation. Well, we send you a proposal first outlining all the costs. Sadly, there is a cost to liquidation. With us guys, it starts from £4,000 plus VAT. And the ways you pay that, there could be some cash in your bank, in the business account, or you could get some terms to pay it over a period of time. In addition to that, you would have to pay for your assets. Once we've given you a proposal and you've had all your questions answered, and the big question for people like you, Tracy, is, can I be a director again of a company if I liquidate one? And the short answer is yes. In 99.9% of cases, some directors get disqualified. Now, a disqualification is never up to the insolvency professional. It's up to the insolvency service. Based on what you've told me, there is not it wouldn't happen in a million years. It's a fairly straightforward liquidation. It's very sad, but yeah, you would be able to be a director of a company again. You would also be able to get a VAT number again, and that's why I'd advise you to set up the VAT number now, because once you've got that in place, then you can look at liquidating this insolvent business. And we send you liquidation notices, you sign them, you send them us back. We convene something called a creditors meeting. So there's like two important dates in liquidation: the date you sign your liquidation notices and the date you go into liquidation. And it's normally 21 days between the two. We have something called a creditors meeting, Tracy, but it's not a physical one anymore. Most firms do it on the phone. You dial in, and I mean, I'm not a betting man, but your creditors will not turn up to the creditors meeting. The HMRC will not turn up, neither will your supplier. It's just where you formally appoint the liquidator. And by that time, you're already trading. You're already trading in the new company, Tracy, hopefully making a profit. And, this will be just a chapter on your life that you turn the page on.
Right. Okay.
What worries and concerns have you got?
Well, my concerns were about, I mean, you've kind of explained that was about the process and yeah, I think you've kind of made it clear to me about the process. So I'm not as concerned as I was at the beginning of the call, because there's an opportunity of the pre-pack that you mentioned starting again, because I know I can do it again. It might not be as big as business as I had before, but with a clean slate, I know I'll be fine. Yeah.
Well, what I'm going to do, and I do this too, in fact, you've probably seen a lot of this stuff. I'm going to send you a load of videos that I've done on my YouTube channel around pre-packs. I actually go on holiday tomorrow. You are my last call before I sign off for 11 days. But when I get back, let's have a chat. Let's go through it. You know where we are. If there's anything that you need to discuss when we're not on the podcast, we're here. And I mean, obviously, it's not the first time that you've spoken to me or one of my team. Have you found what we do helpful?
Oh, it's been invaluable. I knew nothing. I had no idea how to navigate this. You guys have been really supportive. Yeah, it's been great.
Have you ever felt pressured or cornered into a court? Has it always been like?
No, I mean, before Christmas, you were the one you told me what to, and this was like, no, you just give me advice. You told me to get back to HMRC. You told me to put things on hold and get through Q4 and just see how it goes, which is exactly what I did. That was just genuine, valuable advice that you gave to me with no pressure, no fee or anything at all in the first, which is why I've come back to you guys, because I know that you care. It's obvious that you care, and what you've offered is invaluable. So I want to thank you for that.
Listen, I really do appreciate you coming onto the podcast, Tracy. I wish you all the very best. I will catch you when I get back off holiday. Thank you for your time. God bless you.
Thank you.